There we go. And right now we are live with my absolutely amazing and gorgeous guest today. Today is all about self-discovery. And who, if not Michelle Mills-Porter, is the best person ever for this show? Because Michelle is the people reader. Please, Michelle, welcome to the show. I'm so happy to have you here. And please introduce yourself. Could you tell us a few words about yourself? Why did you decide to become a people reader?
Well, do you know, hi Olga, and hi everyone else. It's so gorgeous to see you. You look beautiful, by the way.
Thank you.
I get, how did I decide? I was talking about this the other day. How did I decide to be a people reader? It's a funny story. That it was my life experiences that led me to doing it. But actually, when I look back in history, I always was. When I first, my husband only just reminded me this, but when I met him 27 years ago, I was doing readings in pubs about people. I was taking them on a psychological journey and telling them about themselves. And I did it just as a kind of party trick. And people used to buy me drinks.
Wow, that's a perfect way how to get a free drink. I like it.
It started when I was in the RAF, and somebody said to me, "Oh, you look like a Romany gypsy." And I said, "It's funny you should say that." And they said, "Oh, don't tell me you read palms. I'd love to have my palm read." So I just did, and they said, "Oh, can I buy you a drink?" So I started reading reading palms for pints when I was just like 18, 19 years old.
I love it. Oh my God, I'm so like regretting now we're not next to each other because I would love to give my palm to read it. This is like,
Don't do it, Olga. I don't know how to read a palm.
hang on a second. Wait, you just said you were reading palms for
Yeah. Back then I was just very intuitive, and I was really good at reading in between the lines and reading in between what people said. So I just did it for a laugh. I've never professed to be a palm reader, but that interest in people and that understanding of what's in between the lines, that's what kind of led me to be super intuitive. Then I spent years working on the phone. And my first book was called Phone Genius, The Art of Non-Visual Communication. So again, I'm interested and understanding the art of what it takes to communicate effectively with people over digital media and over the phone. So all of those things that I was picking up taught me so much about people. Then I got into behaviour profiling and I thought, this stuff is amazing.
yes.
And I learned so much about behaviour profiling, started working with a client that did it. So I was kind of selling their services to other people through my business. And then my business, which was doing incredibly well and winning all sorts of awards, I decided to take a few holidays and got caught slap bang in the middle of the Boxing Day tsunami.
Yes, I was going to ask you about this as well. If you could tell us more about this journey, because I never met anybody who actually been in that situation, and you have.
Everyone knows somebody who was affected. And it's not surprising because we forget this.
Yes.
250,000 people lost their lives immediately.
Yes.
And, you know, almost the same amount of people lost their lives afterwards through disease and injury and things like that. So it was the biggest natural disaster in our living history.
Yes. Yes.
And what it taught me is, you know, I slap bang in that face of true adversity. And lots of people will understand this when they've been through adversity themselves. You don't have a chance to put on the mask that you wear in everyday life. You know, you're not playing a role. You don't have a title. You just are who you are. So all of those layers are stripped back and you see straight through to the core of a person. And that's when I thought, oh my God, I've been missing something. And that's really what kind of projected me forward to learning more about human behaviour. So when I got back from the tsunami, I just dived into learning more about human behaviour, became a master behaviour profiler, and now I've created all my own tools, because it gets to a point where you think, okay, I've outgrown all the tools I'm using, I need something else, something better. And that's when I created all of my tools.
Love that. I think it's quite fascinating how you saw an opportunity and almost like a door towards learning in a disaster. Because many people they would say, "Oh my God, I was a victim of this strategy, and now I have some post-traumatic disorder, and now I can't deal with it." But you saw such a great opportunity how to learn about people within or after or before, even in general, these extreme situations when they become so real. And we have actually Howard here saying, "Who? Good afternoon, ladies. Good afternoon, Howard. I hope you're well." And I wonder, Howard, what techniques do you know about reading people? And I wonder if Michelle, if you mind to share with us some of the techniques, which are the first things you kind of use to learn about the person when you meet them for the first time. And I get a lot is very much intuitive, and it's something what you can pretty much learn over the years to connect to your intuition. But what is that technique or like tools which people could use in order to learn about somebody like straight away when they just meet somebody?
Well, first of all, I don't want people thinking this is woo-woo. I don't want people thinking that I'm psychic. It's nothing to do with that. We are animals. This is reading, animal instinct. This is just reading each other and seeing the signs. So I'd already started that process. And when you learn to communicate with people over the phone and that kind of thing, when it's non-visual, you don't have those visual cues to help you understand. So you have to switch your hearing up and really listen to the words that are being used. So quite often the language is the first thing that gives you those cues. The words that people are using, the language they use, whether they're talking about, being collaborative, the team, the effect on other people, that immediately tells you that they have a particular behaviour profile. If they're talking more about the bottom lines and the results and how this is going to improve the business, then that's a different kind of behaviour. So once you understand the nuances and the words that people use, that's the first clue. When you meet someone face to face, the body language and even the way people dress, so their image and everything else, that also gives you road signs into what behaviour people are showing. So it's all about behaviour, and there's no guesswork. So what I do with my analyses, it's asking questions and it's going on the science. None of it is therefore necessarily down to intuition. I think the interesting thing, Olga, is once you've had the chance to exercise a muscle, then you get muscle memory. Then it becomes natural to you. So when I saw the way that human beings were behaving in the face of true adversity, and I saw straight through to the core of people, that muscle was exercised. I was able to understand. It took years for me to put that into context. But now I can look at someone and I can think, I know your core value because I saw it, I exercised that muscle, I've developed and I've learnt and I've repeated and I've done that and made it my speciality. So I am an expert, so I can see very, very clearly. If you're not an expert and if this is something that interests you and you want to start doing it, you have to practice.
Yes. Yeah, I love that. And how do you think it can be used? Because in a business, I get the idea. It can be used when you hire people. It can be used when potentially you work with somebody like a contractor. Not necessarily you hire them, but you work with them still. How it can be used, do you think, in a private life in general, apart, so for example, because in a relationship, I think it's really important to also read a person before you get with them really, really close. And not everybody has the advantage of being able to read other people. But how else can we use this very effectively in our lives? Like, can we just say you can use this ability of reading people, you can use in these areas, for example?
I think there's one rule, Olga. There's behaviour profiling and there's lots of cues and there's lots of ways to understand how to build rapport with each other. The one thing that mucks everything up about that, the one thing that you just chuck that science out the window is love. Love doesn't have any boundaries. It doesn't understand. Yeah. My husband and I are complete opposites in our behaviour. We're complete opposites in our core values. Now, I think the most useful thing that I can share with you today is the core value stuff and how I learned about my core values and how I was recalibrated, because I think it's very poignant for what's going on in society at the moment.
Yes, definitely. Absolutely. And I think it's really important when you know the human behavior, then you can predict so many situations, or not even necessarily predict, but you can prevent either communicating with them or dealing with them or having anything about them. Because again, like the phrase which I use very often is how you do anything, you do everything. And I think it was Tony Robbins who said officially, I don't want to take the ownership of this phrase, but this is so true. This is so true. The behavior which you have in front of one person, most likely you will either not have it in front of another person. That is a mask. Or if it is your natural behavior, you will just apply it everywhere. And I love the comment from Hannah, which we have here. She says, I love the muscle memory comparison. That's really good one, Michelle, actually. That's very good perspective. And that's true. That's true. If you just learn how to do something, then you just can apply it again, again, again.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've just done a fantastic neuroscience course with Dr. Linda Shaw, who I think you know.
Yeah.
And it was a great course. It was really good. What I've realised is that all of the neuroscience stuff, even the stuff that I've been talking about for years and years, I now have, all of the right terminology for that. And actually, it's shown me just exactly how important that is when it comes to behaviour profiling. Because, when we're talking about different parts of the brain firing up and things like that, that's actually our tendency to use those different parts of the brain is exactly what makes up our personality and our behaviour. So the correlation is really tight and it's really exciting stuff. The core values is something that a lot of people don't do. And if they do it, they don't do it well.
That's true. And they don't do it well because they haven't been trained. They haven't been aware. Like, do you really think students at schools or colleges, they're taught that? It's something so niche that actually you'll usually learn about these during the courses or very specialized profession which you're going to learn. So could you actually elaborate more on core values so our listeners or those who are watching us right now can actually learn about that?
Yeah, well, all of our behaviours and our personality fall out of our core values. So this is how I see it. And it's interesting you should say that, because I'm just writing a programme with two colleagues of mine, Karen and Justin, who've been practitioners of mine for a long time. They're absolutely fabulous, and they work in schools. And together we're writing a profile that is specifically for 10 to 14-year-olds. And it shows people about their behaviour and, how to navigate their way through relationships. So let me tell you what I believe about core values. Yes. So core values are fundamental to who you are. They are formed in our early life. So in our fundamental years, it's the advice that we were given, the people that we listened to, the influences we had. And this includes things like our culture, our environment that we were brought up in, religion. All of those things that have got nothing to do with your behaviour are actually fundamental in making you have those beliefs that you hold on to. And it's very difficult to change those beliefs and those core values because they're kind of ingrained and everything grows out from that. Now, core values are really important when it comes to motivation and understanding what truly drives you. The reason that I don't think people are very good at doing core values is because you have to peel back all of those onion layers to get to the core values of a person. And we go throughout our lives thinking that we know what our core values are. When I was a very successful business owner, winning all of these awards and, turning over so much and having 14 staff, I thought I knew what my values were. Then, when I was caught in the middle of the Boxing Day tsunami and I was sitting in Jimmy Lal's garden as a refugee, did I think about my turnover? Did I think about my sales figure? Did I worry about my clients? No, I didn't. I didn't. And it suddenly realigned me to what my core values are. And the kind of things that I cared about, were looking after other people. My family, miss them incredibly. All the little things, suddenly you realise are much more important. Now, I didn't understand what was going on in the thick of this, really, because, when I got home, I went back to my business and I was physically sick in the mornings and I didn't know what it was. I thought it was acid reflux, or I was ill, or this, that, and the other. No, it wasn't. It was my body saying you're not aligned with your core values. Now, I can only tell people about this because I've been through it and I can see with hindsight. But we have the perfect opportunity now, Olga, to recalibrate ourselves, because we are all in this situation. The whole world has shaken us up and said, do you know who you are? Do you know what you're doing? How many of us are sitting at home thinking, I don't want to go back to work. I don't want to go back doing what I used to do.
There we go. Yeah.
So many people are thinking that, and guess what, guys? That's your core values going, hello, you're not aligned with me, I'm not aligned with you. So I'm here to say, anyone that feels that they want to do something different when this is all over, that they're worried about going back to what they were doing before and missing opportunities and missing out on life, there's your wake-up call. Yeah. That's your core values saying, hello, listen to me.
Michelle, I'm so happy you mentioned that, because I think right now is the perfect time. And I keep telling, when people ask me, Olga, how you do this pandemic situation? I'm like, perfect. I'm doing perfect because I'm taking this time to learn more about myself. I'm helping many more people because I have the extra time to learn about themselves, to reprogram them. And you know what? Whilst you were saying, I was ready to jump out of my jeans here, because I so agree with you. We are driven by everything what we learned since our childhood, and we don't even realize that. And so fascinating. Like this morning, I had a session with my client, and she said, Olga, I was quite surprised when I spoke to my dad, and he said, oh, well, why don't you go back to work and your husband looks after your child? Because right now it's the situation a little bit changed and you can earn more than him. And she says, Olga, what do you think about this? And I said, wait, it's not about what I think. It's about you question this because something goes against your big belief. And what is your big belief about how things should be in a family? And she says, well, my dad used to always work and my mom used to be a housewife. So what's your core value is that man is going to work and I'm at home. And this is what she does now. Even though she's a businesswoman, just her business right now is a bit quiet because of the coronavirus. And she says, oh my God, that explains everything, because I wasn't able to decide whether it's right or wrong. And I said, there's no right or wrong. It's about what you were raised with. And that became your normality, your rule. And now it's about what works for you. And we have this perfect opportunity right now to work on what is right for us, what works for us, what is great for us. So when you were saying that, I was like, oh my God, you're so right. I love you so much. But I really, you know what? I knew you'll be absolutely perfect for this show. But we have here a nice comment from Howard. He says, I'm wary of people who touch their face often when talking to cover their mouth. It might indicate nerves or can suggest that they do not entirely believe what they are saying. What do you think about this?
Okay, so that's standard body language, and you're absolutely right, Howard. You know, if somebody does that, it quite often means that they don't like what they're saying, or they don't believe what they're saying, or what they're saying is not true. So if you take body language, these are my three important things with body language. Number one, body language, you have to take it into context with everything else. Yeah, it is a signpost and nothing more. The second, and the reason I say that is because that person might have a loose tooth, or they might have a bad tooth and they don't like showing it. They may have had garlic the night before and they don't want to offend you by blowing garlic at you. It could be a number of things. So you have to think, okay, I'm noticing they're covering their mouth. How do I put that into context with everything else? The second thing about body language is that, you know, well, actually, that's the only thing that you need to know about body language. That's it. Take it into context with everything else. It's not an exact science. None of the soft skills are exact sciences. You have to take into context with everything else.
That's very true, yes, because very often people say if you sit with crossed arms together, then you don't receive information. Yeah, exactly. Let's just have an interview like that. Yeah, then you don't receive the information. You are closed up. But sometimes actually it could be just a sign of being comfortable, just a sign of being relaxed. So I think
Cold.
Cold,
Yeah,
exactly.
a lot of, especially women, and I say that because women have a lower core body temperature to men.
Yeah.
They tend to feel the cold in a big room quicker than men do. That's just science. So when you're a speaker, you'll know this, Olga, and you see a lot of women sitting there like this. The
Yeah.
first thing I think is, what's the temperature doing? Can we ask them to turn up the heat? Can we ask them to turn the aircon off? It's remarkable because those bodily things can actually affect people's mindset. The amount of times that you see people coming out of a session that's had loads of really useful stuff in, and in the comments they say it was freezing. What's that got to do with the price of bread? But they're so, they're so distracted with the fact that they're cold that they can't take in the information. So it's so incredibly important.
It is, absolutely, yes. But you know what I wonder? When we say the theme of this show today will be live in flow, how can we implement the knowledge about reading people and knowing the body language and also feeling people intuitively, whether somebody is really advanced in that or not? How can we use all of that in terms of living your life in flow? Like, how is it connected all together? Do you think there's any connection? Do you think we should do it?
Don't read my body language, Howard. I've got an itchy nose. um, yeah, okay. So let me explain. Living in flow is about the core values. The behavior profiles and all those kind of things are extra tools, but living in flow is about your values. So let me give you a tiny little story and tell you how I came to that conclusion. So when I came back from the tsunami and I was back in work, and everything that I did was like I was wading through mud. Doors weren't opening, things weren't happening. Before, everything was just going brilliantly. Now nothing was happening. And as soon as I got the opportunity to start this charity, the Higdo Village Fund, all of my passion went into that. I was neglecting work to spend time, in the charity. And it was years later that I was able to understand and put it all together. I was not in flow with my core values, and that recalibration, that knocking on the door, these are your core values. It took ages for me to realize what they were. But when you actually are in line with your core values, that is what gives you energy. When you are in line with your core values, everything starts to flow. Doors start flying open, opportunities start landing in your lap. Everything starts to flow easily. It just becomes easy. So rather than the wading through the mud and nothing happening, suddenly you can't keep up sometimes. It's just like, well, hey, everything's happening. Now, you have to be in line with your core values in order for that to happen. And that's what I've learned and developed over the years. But the thing about core values is that you can go to lots of different people and they'll tell you lots of things. And if I said to you, Olga, what are your core values? And I said that to 3 or 4 different people, they would come up with all of these words because the English language is vast. One person might say, high morals. I've got really high morals. Somebody else might say, I have firm principles. Someone else might say, I have ethics. Guess what? They're all the same thing. So how do you make sense of all of these people with all of these words thinking that these are their values? And how do you stop people giving you what the values they aspire to without actually checking whether that's true?
Yeah.
So we need to get to your subconscious in order to tell whether that's true or not. So if you said to me, what are your core values? My ethics and morals. How do I know that? What proof have I got? How do I know where that sits in society? Who am I like? Who am I not like? So you need some kind of analysis in order to be able to make sense of that. And that's what I've created with Essence. Essence is my core values analysis because it gets to the essence of people and it tells you what your core values are based on the answers that you give. And it gives you what the things that are likely to motivate you and the things that are likely to stress you. And it's brilliant because you can sit there and say, yeah, I know exactly who that is. The whole list of stressors there. I can tell you who that is. Now I know why I left my last job.
There we go.
And all the things that motivate you. So me, for instance, wanting to spend all my time in the charity, and helping other people, that's my social high core value. I didn't realize that was a high core value. And so unless you actually sit and do an analysis and get to the subconscious and realize what they truly are, you don't necessarily know what they are. And even me, being a successful businesswoman, I didn't truly know what my core values were. So having this chance, to have this recalibration that we're having at the moment is the perfect opportunity for us to examine ourselves and say, what truly are my core values? What really motivates me? Don't talk about your job. Your boss isn't listening.
Yeah.
Tell the truth. What really motivates you? What do you want to spend your time doing? And that will give you some clues as to where you spend your energy.
I love that. And I love the fact how kind you were actually to offer people to do the test on themselves, the core values analysis. And let me just say that everybody who will go to, is it on your website? Oh no, you should email. People should email. So what I'll do below this video, I will post the email address. It's your email address where people can email you. And then if they quote the show, then they can get it for £10, not $29.99 plus VAT. Is it right, Michelle?
Yeah, the thing is, I would love to give this free of charge to everyone, but I have to pay my IT charges and things like that. So, and the platform, the people that run the platform, there's, I have to pay for that. So it's the very minimum that I can charge.
It's understandable. It's understandable. Plus, Michelle, let's remember that when people get something for free, we don't value that because it's a freebie and very often it's end up somewhere in the bin, right? So when people paid at least something, because even £10, that's like what, 3 cups of coffee in Starbucks, which right now people don't do, right? It's absolutely nothing, but they can get this great opportunity to learn about their own core values. So I'll share your email address below the video, so obviously people can do it, because I think it's really valuable to know who you really are, to know what really drives you. That's so fantastic.
Well, I swear, Olga, this is so funny. When I do the core values in groups, you'll see birds of a feather flock together. Like I said, love is the exception to all the rules. Stuart and I have got completely separate core values. I love him anyway. I'd like to wring his neck half the time, but we always put it down to core values. But it's true. You see people actually will, I can tell immediately when I share somebody's core values, and I can tell immediately when we clash in terms of our core values. The one thing that I want to say is this: if someone doesn't have the same core values as you, it doesn't mean they're against yours. Doesn't. It means that they have a different priority. So I'll give you an example. I have a very low utilitarian core value. For me, and it's easy for me to understand where that comes from. I was, brought up in a council flat. We never had any money. It was never of massive importance. Love and relationships were important. Then I was in a tsunami and I gave everything that I owned away. All of our savings, we drained our bank account, we put it all into the charity. So it's just been drummed into me that is not the most important thing. When I come across someone who has utilitarian as their highest core value, we may not immediately see things the same way.
Yes.
But if you understand why they have that core value, then you can understand and forgive each other and get on a bit better. So somebody that has a high utilitarian as a core value, it may be that they were brought up with absolutely nothing and realised the importance of financial independence. And maybe they had someone saying, don't make the mistakes I made, son. Make sure that you always look after your family, that you've always got money in the bank for a rainy day. That could be where that core values come from. So why clash? Just understand they're different and learn to work together. And by doing something like Essence, it gives you the opportunity to see where you sit in society, how you measure against other people, and it's just a really good benchmark that you don't get when you're sitting doing your own core profiles using different words to the words that everyone else is using.
Love that. This is so powerful. And also, let's admit that everybody who's coming into our lives, very often they're there to teach us something, or we are there to teach them something. So if somebody's coming with completely opposite core values to you, maybe it's a challenge for you. Maybe universe is sending you this person for you to challenge yourself and to think, oh, should I really just save my money? Because Michelle, just very similar like you, in my childhood, we haven't had that much money. Like sometimes we were in the car waiting to go to school. Thankfully, we had the car because we lived that far. but we're waiting for my mom to sell like some milk and eggs, whatever, in order for us to have some pocket money to go to school. And because I was the eldest, I was going to school more often. Maybe that's why I'm a bit more smart. I keep joking. Right? But, and that's why as a result, for me, it was always like, oh my God, I need to make sure I always have money. But then what my mom did, she was such a spender, and she still is. And bless her, it doesn't matter how much money you give to my mom, she spends it all. And I could never understand, like, why? Why would you want to spend all that money which you have when actually we don't even have that much? And only when I went through all my education, I realized that it was because her core value was spend, don't save. Because my grandma, she was a huge spender. She was saver. She would never spend any extra money. She would leave to complete minimum of anything expenditure because she would love to save money. So my mom, she went completely opposite way, of course, because now I go to spend. And it's quite fascinating how I was in this limbo in my life for a while between spend and save. And until I understood why I am like that, I couldn't change my behavior. But once I understood where it's coming from, I was like, duh, now I can change it. And that was just life-changing. So anybody who is doubting about should you do this core value analysis or not, please do, because it will be eye-opening for you. Absolutely, I can guarantee that. And in fact, you know what, Michelle? I'll do it myself, just to double-check where I'm right now. But we have here some comments. Howard is saying, oh, get ready for this, Michelle. He says, I love your hair, Michelle. What does it tell me about you? Or more importantly, what would you like it to tell me about you? And Maria says, good question, Howard. I love it.
What my hair should tell you about me is that I'm authentic. Oh. It's grey, I live authentically, and it took so many people, Julie, my friend, Julie Bridgewater, she was the hairdresser, and she was like, no, Michelle, don't go grey, it's going to make you look old, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no, hold on. I'm getting on stage and I'm talking about core values and being authentic. I want to go grey. And now I love it. My hair never sparkled before I was grey. And now I get sparkles. I had dark hair before. It's still dark underneath, there's still a lot of dark and some dark on the top as well. And when it was dark, it shined, never sparkled. Now I get sparkle, so I love it. So that's something that you would tell about me. Another thing you'd tell about me from my hair is that actually, I don't mind aging and being and showing everything, my scars, I open my heart to people. I tell them whatever they want to know, because that's the way I like to live my life.
Well, but this is what I love about you, Michelle, because when you speak, every time I heard you speak, whether it was a live with somebody, which I was watching, I think last week it was with Simone? With whom?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you did a live last week. Or whether it was your talk, which I was watching, for example, on YouTube, or they just like on Facebook as a short snippet of that. I was always mesmerized by how you literally capture people that you speak from your heart. And that's what I really admire about you, because I think it's something what not everybody has. And even Howard is saying now, great answer, Michelle, authentic. And no, it was actually Maria saying that. Thank you, Maria. That's a beautiful comment. And that's true. It's you authentic. It's you when you speak from your heart. And I think it's something what people should learn. But how do they learn that? How?
It's difficult. You see, if as a professional speaker, there's that voice in my head every time I go on stage. Oh my God, is everyone going to think I look really fat in this dress? And am I smart enough? Should I put my hair up? And are they going to accept me? Are they going to think that I have that knowledge? And do you know what? You have to understand. I speak because I have a message. And that message is bigger than me. That message is more powerful than me. I am just a conduit, nothing more. And people don't really care what I look like. It's the message that is important. And I love what you said earlier on about people coming into your lives and things like that for a reason. And you also said right at the beginning of the interview, how did you take something so positive from the biggest natural disaster in our living history? For me, why go through all of that if there wasn't a lesson to be learned? Maybe it was somebody tapping me on my shoulder. Maybe it's somebody saying, you've got a role in life, and the role, this is the lesson, go deliver it. Because that's how I feel now. I look back and I think, now I know why that happened. I've got to share that with people. I need to be able, without all the agony that I went through, trying to understand why life wasn't working for me. What if I could give people a shortcut? What if I could help people to get there quicker and not go through the kind of pain that I've had to go through doing it? So the message becomes bigger than me. And once you get to that stage where the message is the most important thing, nothing else matters. That's when you connect with people.
Oh gosh, you just, honestly, your words are just music to my ears. I love it, honestly. You are so right. And I agree with you, not just 100%, 1,000,000%. Because once we realize that absolutely everything, including all negative experiences, happen in our life to make us who we are now, it is an eye-opener. Because literally, when we look back at our life and we join all those dots, whether it was poverty or that was a rape or that was, I know, negative experience, all of that, if only you see an opportunity in that, will show what was your mission, what was your path, and what you should do with that. Because we are given these tools, and our past is our tool, which we can use towards our mission. And it's really powerful. And it's quite interesting when Hannah says here, an arrow can only be shot by pulling it backward. Oh, that's good. So when life is dragging you back with difficulties, it means that it's going to launch you into something great. Oh my God, this is so good quote. I like that. And then she says, this is a quote I saw and shared the other day and feels so relevant for everyone right now. And that is so true, isn't it? We feel like
that's a really good point, Hannah. But do you know what? You have to release the arrow.
Yes. Yeah.
Really good point. But something has to release the arrow. It's the letting go.
Yes.
That's what finds the flow.
Yeah, because how often people get addicted to their past. How often they would, and I was there as well. And so many of my clients, when they come here, and very often I tell them, look, I don't want to turn your coaching into counseling. Let's not talk all over what happened to you before again, because that's not going to change anything. If you really want to go and talk about this more, go see somebody else. I'm here to help you to move on, to release it, to learn lessons from this, and just like a rocket shoot through. And it's quite powerful what happens in people's lives, including in mine. And I'm so passionate about this. When you really release it, right? When you just let it go and you see the lesson, and then you just like you did, Michelle, you just go onto the stage and you pass on the message which you learned through the experiences which you had. But if you wouldn't have those experiences, you would never be who you are right now.
Yeah, and if I worried, about all the little voices in my head, I'd never get up on stage. I'd never get up on stage, and yet I do, because I know even when I'm nervous, I'm like, Michelle, you've got a message, you've got to get it out there.
Yeah.
And if you can have, a core values analysis, if you can have an essence report in front of you that tells you these are the things that are going to make you feel like you're wading through mud, like you're pulling back the arrow, that's when you can work on them. That's when you can let them go. Just don't do that anymore. If that's what's going to hold you back, don't do it anymore. If these are the things that are going to truly drive you, that are going to give you fire in your belly, then just make sure that you, I hate the word pivot, especially at the moment, but just adjust to make sure that those core values are being satisfied. And once you realise, once those core values are being satisfied, you'll shoot through, everything just starts working.
I love that. And the most beautiful thing is when you stick true to your core values and yourself, when you just relax and you just allow things to happen, not necessarily sitting on the sofa and wishing for a car to appear in your life, but when you stop focusing on what you don't have, but what you have, and you just be grateful for what you have, this is when the true miracles happen.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I can't think of that analogy now. It's about releasing a butterfly. or I can't. I wish I could remember that. Somebody will type it in the chat notes or something and let me know what I'm talking about. But it's that releasing and just allowing it to be. You know,
Yes, exactly. And it's really powerful because very often people are getting stuck in a chase. They're getting stuck in regrets. They're getting stuck in just going back to their past again and again, being addicted. And as I said earlier, it's all about moving on, releasing and welcoming everything what can come into your life because you're aligned and you are within that flow. So
yeah, but do you know what, Olga? I'm sorry, I don't mean to interject. I'm so excited, I can't stop talking. But because I love this subject, but for me, it's that realization of core values, of what your core values are, that give you not only the impetus and not only the desire to do things, but I don't know, it's just everything. I The way that I liken it is that my behavior profiles and all of those profiles, they show you how you do what you do, how you communicate, how to build rapport with other people, how to change your communication in certain aspects, and all those things. The core values is the why. I always wanted to say, yeah, but I want to know why. Why am I like that? Why do I feel like that? When you have the answers to the why, then you don't have the questions anymore. It just eliminated so many questions for me. I didn't need to look back in my past anymore because now I have the why. Why am I like this? Why? Because this is my core value. That's where I am right inside. Once you know that, those questions just dissolve.
yes, it's so powerful. It's extremely powerful. I love it, Michelle. But do you have any funny stories about maybe people who work with you and they found out about the core values, or maybe how you were going probably in a business and you were helping them to find core values? Do you have any stories to tell about, how people were surprised and how eye-opening for them it was? I'm sure you do have some.
I don't, but that's really difficult to swap from something that's really deep to suddenly think of something funny. But I think the thing for me, I knew that I created something special because I'd done core values analyses through other people and that kind of stuff. And I thought, no, this isn't capturing it. And when I created Essence, I did my own. Of course, I'm the first guinea pig. I did my own. I was like, wow, that's why. And I have to say, this trying to find a lesson in things, trying to find a reason, always coming back and moving forward positively, that does fit with a specific core value. So people that have that as a high core value, that's going to be natural for them. I think possibly the funniest thing I can talk about is when I did my husband's. And I had to do his because all the people that I stick around with and that I gel with obviously have similar core values to me. So I was thinking, I have to. Have I inadvertently weighted the answers according to my core values? I don't think I have I? Because everyone's coming out with these core values, and so of course I did my husband's. And he sat, and it was the complete opposite. And I was thinking, yes, I know my core values analysis works now. But he just sat there and he looked through the list and he said, my God, he said, everything on the stressors list is you, Michelle.
Wow.
Total opposites. All the things that are going to stress him out are me, and all the things that are going to stress me out are him. So we do have to work at it. We do.
So how did you in that case make it work when you're so opposite? How do you make it work? Because I must say people do say opposites attract. And I must say that's because when we don't have something, we're really curious about that. But one thing is to be attracted to, and second thing to make it work. So how do you make it work?
It's like I said, Olga, love is the one thing that throws all of this out of the window. It just defies science. Love defies science. I fell in love with him and he fell in love with me at first sight. And we weren't available to each other. And circumstances worked in order to bring us together. And there was a bit of persistence there on as well involved. But I think the key thing is that if you want to make it work, you can. I had a client and I was, we weren't gelling and he wasn't doing what I needed him to do. We'd sat down, we'd gone through our behaviour profiles, we'd looked at the areas that we were different. And this is behaviour now, rather than core values. And I came home thinking, do you know what? I'm just going to end that project. I'm going to bring the project to a close early. I'm going to say, look, I can't work with you anymore. And in future, every client I take on board, I'm going to profile them first. And if they don't fit my profile, then I'm going to say, jog on, find someone else. It's not going to work. And I got home and I said, Stuart, will you do my behaviour profile analysis, please? He did my behaviour profile analysis and he was exactly the same
Wow.
profile exactly the same, and not exactly the same because it's down to percentages, but an identical kind of basic profile
Yeah.
to this client. And what that made me understand is that actually with Stuart, I loved him, so I worked with him and I made it work and I understood those little differences. With this client, he had the same profile as Stuart, but I wasn't that invested in making it work with him. I was ready to throw that relationship out of the water because it wasn't fulfilling me. So it's down to choice. If you want to make it work, then having someone that is the complete opposite can be the yin and yang. That can be your complete jigsaw piece if you let it.
Yes. Yeah. And it's all about making things work through communication, what I believe in, definitely, because when you don't talk and you're too different, then things will never work out. So even if you are too different, it still can work out, but you have to really work on it, and not work on it in a perspective like hard way, but from perspective of, you know what, we will make it work because we're committed, because just like you, we love each other, we want to be together, and even though we're opposites, we will be strong together, just like yin and yang. And that is so powerful. And I must say, when I see your post on Facebook and you and your husband, it's just, you have so much love for each other, and I admire that. I really admire that. And I think if anybody could stay together for so long, did you say 19 years?
27.
That's like nearly my life, Michelle.
27 years together, yeah.
Wow, that's shocking. Why do I think 19 years? 27 years. This is remarkable time. 27 years together. Yeah, you definitely. I think you need to write a book about that, don't you think?
I've been thinking about the angle for my story, and which angle I take. And sometimes I think the love story element of our story is it's the biggest success area, I think. But don't get me wrong, Olga, there are areas where we just do not see eye to eye, and we never will. We have to extract that from the relationship. And there was an instance last night when we started talking about politics and stuff like this. I was like, okay, this is what we don't talk about. We don't talk about this because we will never see eye to eye on that. So it's understanding which elements you just say, do you know what? Let's just not go there,
I agree with you. I agree that there are some topics which I will avoid for any price as well. And one of them is politics. And there are many reasons why. I'm not going to go into this subject on the live video as well. But yes, some topics just should be kept to ourselves, I guess, and never brought up. That will bring some arguments. So this is really powerful. But I love the way how deep you went into your research and your analysis about these core values, and that you created your own system. And I love and admire the fact that you actually used it yourself. Because to me, I am a big believer about walking your talk. Whatever you talk about, you should do it. That's my big, big belief. But when you say you do it yourself, I'm like, yes, you do walk your talk. That's really powerful. And I think you're right when it comes to clients. It's very easy to say you should take anybody because they come to you, they should work with you. But I'm quite similar to you and opposite to what people generally say. No, you shouldn't work with everybody. You should work with those people with whom you really enjoy working together, because then the energy flows. And I think Maria, she says politics, religion, and football. Avoid a football, I guess. Yes. And Maria, she's a Reiki practitioner. I think she will know it as well, that when you don't click, the energy doesn't go. And with clients, when we work with anybody, then the energy doesn't flow. And we should be really, really mindful of that. So that's really powerful. But Michelle, you know what? I could talk to you for an absolute days and weeks because this is a subject which I'm very passionate about. You are passionate about, and we can talk for hours. But I really enjoyed that. Do you have any other tips which you would like to share before we should finish off this and wrap it up this video?
Yes. Just if you have children or if you work with children, then be very aware. They are, they're beautiful. They are open. They're like glass. They hide nothing. They haven't learned to put those masks on. So listen to them. You know, if they have a desire, a particular drive, and don't try and think you'll do the right thing by guiding them in a different direction. Nurture them, let them grow their own way.
That is so true, Michelle. And really quickly, I'll tell you the story what happened to me in my journey actually. When I was little, I so much wanted to be a teacher, and I could never explain what was it even teaching. For me, it was being in front of soft toys. So I would put soft toys in front of me, and I would just stand saying something in front of them. I could never verbalize what I was doing. So I remember my mom called it teaching. She said, Olga, why would you want to be a teacher? And I couldn't explain that it's not teaching what I'm doing, but I was really just doing something. I was pretending to be something which I didn't know what's even called, right? And my mom, she talked me out of that. She was like, well, no, if you will do teaching, because she didn't know what I'm mimicking, if you will do teaching, you'll be all the time with small children, they will annoy you, they'll be misbehaving. No, don't do that. And then when I grew up a bit older, I was so fascinated by psychology, and my big dream was to be a like really well-known psychologist and like really dig deeper. And my mom, she said, no, no, no. If you're going to be a psychologist, you will work with people who have issues all the time, mental issues and these issues. So no, 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 don't become a psychologist. And that all down to the fact that I could never verbalize what exactly I was mimicking. But what I was mimicking is actually public speaking, is educating people, is motivating, is inspiring, is being in front of people, passing on the message. But it wasn't teaching. And it took me ages to start listening to myself because I was trained not to. I was trained to think what will work and what is, a good job to do and what is something what is required to do, rather sticking to my own values, my own core values, and myself, being authentic to myself. But once I figured out that coaching is something what I'm really passionate about, that just flicked something in my mind. And that was the biggest switch. And speaking was just a result of coaching because people were asking me if I could do workshop on XYZ, if I could talk, if I could do inspirational talk or whatever. And it's just fascinating that since I connected to myself and I started living my authentic myself, my life, sticking to my core values, things just changed completely. So this is so powerful too. Really powerful. So,
Yeah, this is flow. You found your flow.
absolutely. Yeah.
I'm working with some families at the moment. I don't do family work, but it's research for the profile that I'm doing, and some work that I do speaking in schools. And there are so many parents that think they're doing the right thing by telling their children that they should do this or they should do that. And what they're doing is they're putting that young adult into a system, into a direction that is never going to fulfill their core values, and they're going to have a lot of issues. Trying to understand why it's not going right, trying to understand why they're not fulfilled. Being in line, being in flow is all about finding your fulfillment, finding your flow of energy, finding something that just excels. And the opposite of that, is coming across too many hurdles, too many brick walls, never feeling fulfilled, never feeling happy, never feeling, that you're living to your full potential. That's the difference. So that's why being in line with your core values is so incredibly important.
It really is, and it's fascinating. It's really beautiful comment here from Hannah. She says, my family were always very open to my goals and encouraging me to explore. And I think this has really helped me to find my path so young. How good is that? Hannah, you're so blessed.
Yeah, that's lovely.
Yeah, how many people do we know that actually had so supportive parents?
Yeah, I've got lovely parents. My parents are really supportive. They just kind of let me do what I wanted to do. I joined the forces at 17. So
Wow, that is such a journey.
I,
Michelle, we need to have you back. We need to have you back to tell us more stories because honestly, joining Air Forces at 17, then running successful business, winning all sorts of awards, then getting into tsunami strategy, and then changing your career completely. I mean, you are a Wonder Woman. Did you know that? You're a proper Wonder
no,
Woman.
I'm not. I'm 51. That's what I am. I've lived. You don't get to our age without a few stories, Olga. The important thing I think is, for people to just live the fullest life that they have. Now is the time for us to allow this evolution of ourselves, this evolution of the planet, of humanity. We have fertile ground to work on now. If you don't feel that going back to work, doing what you were doing is the right thing, don't worry too much about the money. We can live leanly. This time should show us that we can live more leanly than we ever thought. The problems that we're going through at the moment are first world problems. Just allow yourself to be recalibrated.
This is so true and this is so powerful. And Michelle, I'm so forever grateful that you came today because you shared so much value, so many great tips. And I will definitely make sure I'll share your email address below this video so people can email you and do their own core value analysis because that'll be really powerful. And Howard is saying here, fascinating interview. Thank you both. Well, thank you, Howard, for actually being with us. Really appreciate you having us, on your daily routine. That's really, really nice of you. So thank you so much. So, Michelle, is there anything else you would like to add before we finally wrap up this interview, which I don't want to finish off, but we have to?
I think the only thing that I'm going to ask is that you carry on shining in the way that you are, Olga. You carry on doing what you're doing. Seeing some of the guests you've had and seeing what you bring to other people is just lovely. So you keep doing it.
Oh, thank you so much, Michelle. That really means a lot to me. Thank you. I really appreciate it. It really made me emotional. I'm glad we're finishing the show now. That's good. Well, thank you so much, everyone who was watching us and who was listening to us. I really appreciate your participation. Thank you, everyone who was here. Maria says, agree, Howard, amazing. Thank you so much, Michelle, for being here with us because I really admire you. I really love you. And having you on this show and having your wisdom and everything what you said, sharing with the audience is so powerful. It really means a lot to me. So thank you so very much.
It's my absolute pleasure. Just make sure you all link in with me because I want to know who you are.
Oh, yes, please, everybody, please send Michelle and maybe a message as well. What is your core value once you do the test? Because I'm sure, Michelle, would you like to know that?
Yes, absolutely.
That'll be wonderful. It will be also great to receive some comments about what people found out about them. That'll be fabulous and fascinating. I'm always curious about results, because so far I've received so great feedback from people who said, listening to your interview, Steve Judge, for example, one lady, she had so much clarity about the book. Another person said that she had so much clarity about relationship when I had another lady, Tanya, on relationship day. And so much great feedback. I'm not going to go through all of that because we need to wrap up the show finally. But I mean, it's really fascinating to hear the feedback and especially for guests. So if anybody, as soon as you do the test, please email Michelle or message on Facebook. I will share the links to Michelle's profile so you can inform Michelle how did it go. So we can at least let you know.
I'm going to tell everyone, Olga, what your core values are going to be so you can prove it afterwards. I'm going to give you 2 letters. I'm going to give you A and I'm going to give you S. And that's all I'm going to say. It's out there. It's public. Do your core values analysis and let's see whether I'm right.
That's it. I'm in. AS. Okay, I'm in it. Thank you. All right. Now you challenged me.
Challenged me.
Good. I'll be emailing you straight after this. I want this analysis. Love that. Love that. Well, thank you once more, Michelle. Thank you once more, everybody. We'll have to wrap it up because we're really giving them for quite a long now. But it was an absolute pleasure. And I'll be definitely looking forward to speak to you once more, Michelle, because I absolutely enjoyed. And this interview flew just like 1 minute. Thank you so much.
It's my pleasure. Thank you, Olga.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.